All right, you want to get right into Wakanda?
Yeah, let's do it. Teams don't quite all click together, but all the constituent parts still make a really good movie. They had to
Agreed.
take quite a journey to get there, but I liked what they put together. And
Mm.
that is the fanfiction.
All right, you want to get right into Wakanda?
Yeah, let's do it.
Wakanda Forever. All right, so I saw this in theaters, obviously, and however, I did
Did
find
you
the
get the
site.
premium format? Did you do
I
the
don't.
AMC with the
I mean,
reclining seats and the Dolby
I mean,
Atmos?
they're all like that, except the Prime is a little bit different, but they don't have the seat warmer of the Prime. So I mean, all the theaters are just glorious at this point, right?
It's really kind of the golden age for really seeing stuff either at home with how good TVs are or in the theater.
It's the golden age for entertainment thus far, right? I mean, who
Yeah,
knows what's next? But
it's the
it's
best
hard
time
not
in
to be
history to sit on your ass.
very comfortable while watching, whatever it
Yeah.
is you choose to watch. So, all right, Wakanda Forever. Do you want to do the setup here? I was good. I was planning on just letting Bri do that, but he's not here to do that. So I guess I
I
can
can pull it up.
do
Yeah,
that.
if you wanna do you wanna do it? You want me to do
Yeah,
it? I
sure.
got it.
I'll do it. So Ryan Coogler returns to direct Black Panther. It is starring, oh Jesus Christ, Letitia Wright, Lapita, Lapita
Do you want
Nyong'o.
me to take this?
Could you
Are
take
these
it for me?
names too black? We got Letitia Wright,
Too black? Is that what you said?
Yeah, Lupita
Okay.
Nyong'o, watch me now, just totally ruin this. Denai Guerrera, Winston Duke, Angela Bassett, Tenoch Huerta. That's a great name. Martin Freeman, obviously, and Dominique Thorne, and a million other strong black people rounding out the cast.
Yeah.
Glorious.
Yes, this is the earliest I've ever seen a remake hit theaters because I think Woman King came out just like what a couple months ago, right? And here we already
Yeah.
have a remake, in the Marvel universe, which was kind of impressive that they could get the ball off the ground and delivered. Pre-production takes a long time usually with something like this, but I'm joking, of course. But there's so many similarities with these two movies. Um, Surprisingly, there's no okay. Bad News Bears, the original Bad News Bears,
Yes.
and perhaps the remake. There's about as much Black Panther in that as there is in this one. You know what I mean?
Where you think the DNA is totally different in this one.
Well, there's just very, very little Black Panther. It's a 2 hour and 40 some odd movie.
That is true.
And I'm like, is Black Panther? The movie's about how Black Panther is not around anymore. That's pretty much what we hear quite a bit. There's next to no Black Panther.
And for a long time, because you know me, I never watch any trailers, so I had no idea what to expect going in. But I expected it to be a little sooner to get to Black Panther, and it really, for a while, almost seemed like that was not going to happen at all.
I mean, if you're going because you love the suit and you love what Black Panther does, be prepared. I mean, you can show up maybe 2 hours late. I'm not even joking. I think like 2 hours in, and we still have not seen any Black Panther, which
Yeah.
takes a lot of balls, and it makes sense because he died, so we're not going to see a Black Panther unless you replace him, and I think it's out of respect.
Well, they
However,
did do a weird thing where it was kind of like a sequel mixed with an origin story. So they had a lot of lifting to do to get it where it needed to go.
a new origin story, right?
Yeah, it was like origin story for this new character. It was kind of odd. I'm not
But
sure
I
if I've
feel
seen
like
that before, where it was kind of a sequel, kind of an origin story.
yeah, I guess but without doing a spoiler episode on this, I don't know. It might have been a lot for not. All right, we're speaking of riddles here. So I was not aware, much like you, I don't watch trailers, and I've been they did a really good job at concealing, I guess, the antagonist, if you can even call it that, in this movie, because I had no idea that this could have turned into James Cameron's nightmare, which it kind of was, I think.
This is there's no way that Avatar can compete with this. If this was Avatar, I would give a shit about Avatar.
I think I'm completely on the same page, Avery. I would absolutely be much more interested in those floating beans and whatnot if they had the sensibilities that these fellas had. I didn't know so much of it took place at sea. I didn't know that there was even blue dudes. I might have seen a flash of the guy with the wings on his feet, but I'm going to assume that most of the people listening have seen the movie, so I'm not going to go to great lengths of explaining. How do you even explain the storyline? It's like
Well, it took 2 hours and 40 minutes for the movie to do it. So
very convoluted. There's a lot of upset with the United States of its particular folks in the United States who are more warmongers, and there's a lot of talk about people of color and how they've been wronged historically. And as a result, there's not really a clear antagonist until well into the third act, right? I mean,
Yeah, you could see where it was headed for
for
sure.
sure.
You could imagine where it was going because where else is it gonna go? But I thought it was very interesting how much world building was gonna be involved. Because going into it, I really had no idea. I probably wrongly assumed, all right, they're gonna find another Marvel villain that I haven't heard of, that Geo knows all about. They're gonna pull this dude in, they're gonna kick his ass. She's gonna have to save Wakanda, bada bing, bada boom, more rap music, Wakanda. Which hey, I was fine with that. I would have been in for that, but I did not expect the level of world building that they did. I think it was on par with the world building that they did, maybe even more so in the first Black Panther, where they really introduced you to a whole other thing that I was not expecting.
I agree. Yeah, I think that this is almost like Rorschach, where like the other world was right, like had to be as impressive and as there's so many parallels. How do we? All right, so essentially, vibranium isn't only in Wakanda. There might be some other large reserve of it under the ocean, and there is a lineage of humanoids who have been much like the Wakandans, living off of it, but in secret. And then we get the entire origin of their story, and it's all based on essentially like Aztecs and ancient cultures from the
Yeah,
Yucatan,
Aztecs, Mayans, yeah.
and a lot of it's really really cool. However, for everything that was really cool on screen, there was like a cringe or two for me, as well as like, "Oh, okay, I've seen that before." And I
Yeah.
kept thinking this, and I don't know if it's fair, but I'm doing this thing now with Marvel movies where I'm just comparing them to RRR, and I just it's just not RRR. Like RRR is the best Marvel movie I've seen all year, and it's not a Marvel movie, but it's the giant action set pieces similar to R. It's like India's version of Marvel movies, and I feel things in RRR. I've seen it a few times now, and I didn't feel anything in this movie. Did you feel?
I don't think I felt much. There was a lot of I mean, at the we're not gonna spoil anything, but the after credit scene, the reaction from the audience was so audible that it was insane.
Like they were stoked?
Yeah, it just the output. It was like it was happening to one of their family members. That was the level of.
Yeah, I
It
think
was.
I might have heard some crying, and I'm not
It
kidding.
wa Yeah, it was like you everybody was witnessing an engagement. That's not what happens, but it was like a restaurant and you just saw somebody get engaged. That was the level of, "Oh my god," of what was happening in the audience.
Yeah,
Um,
it's bizarre when
I
when
don't
when
I don't
people
know if I don't know if I felt a ton, but I also don't really expect that for Marvel. I really liked. I think the only thing I did feel I didn't get any of the heartstrings pulled too much, but I did feel
they were pulling too. They were trying. That was annoying.
they were trying, and I do think it was working for some people, but I think for me, what I forgot that I experienced with Black Panther, I think watching this as a Black person, there is just an inherent level of joy in watching it and watching the culture be portrayed, and just in the first 20 minutes, watching Black people kick the shit out of white people.
And not
That
just
was
black
very,
people, black women
very
for the most
enjoyable.
part, right?
Yeah,
And
and, that was great, and it was honestly one of the best ways I've seen it done with a primarily female cast, 'cause it occurred to me in the middle of the movie of, I don't think I've heard a male character talk in 50 minutes,
yeah.
and I didn't care. And it wasn't being shoved down your throat either. It wasn't about. I think it does a really great job of passing the Bechdel test because they're not really talking about dudes at all. It's more, how do you relate? What's your goal? What are your dreams? What are we trying to do? And I thought the way they did it was very authentic in a way that you didn't even realize that there's really maybe one male character, two, and even then they don't have a ton of screen time and kind of exist to service the female characters in some
Yeah,
ways,
and
which I thought was interesting.
I really react poorly to things like that when they are forced, and obviously this is by design. It's not like they just stumbled across this or dusted off like an old comic from way back when. And well, maybe they did, but that I mean, they did this because it's like this is the time of not only women but people of color and all of the things
Yeah.
that have happened over the last few years, right? It makes absolute sense. Then when you try and wedge that in and it doesn't really work, that's where I get like, what the hell's it's a studio just trying to rake in money and go,
Yeah.
virtue signaling with hundreds of millions of dollars essentially. But no, you're absolutely right. Like they pulled it off. These were engaging characters for the most part. These were people that I actually wanted to see kick ass, and I was never like, oh, that this is just good editing or good stunt work or good double work. Like I believe that those women were beating the shit out of the fish men.
Yeah, and I think that's why I like it more than a lot of other Marvel movies. It's very hand to hand and physical, where it's
Yeah.
spears, it's fighting, it's clawing, people are bleeding,
If I
people are
hadn't
getting
seen RRR this
stabbed.
year, like this would be much more impressive. Unfortunately, RRR kind of
Yeah,
ruined me for so many of these types of crazy, big, over the
but
top
it
action
had that
movies.
flavor. It does have the
It
RRR
does have the
flavor
flavor.
to
It
it.
does. That's why you can't help think about it. And this is a very un-Marvel movie in a lot of ways too. Like it didn't feel like I was long stretches where you're not seeing superheroes, you're just seeing like warriors. And it
And I knew
and
yeah, and I knew I liked it because I didn't I feel like there were times I should have gotten douche chills, and I didn't. It just worked, and I kinda let it happen.
Mhm.
I like the way animals were used by the antagonist. I
I
thought
like
I
that.
thought I wasn't I didn't mind it as much as I would have thought.
I didn't
I was
mind it.
just
It
okay
was
with it.
the douche chills for me was part of the world building where they're showing the underworld water culture and just how peaceful. And
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I was just like, "Ah," and all the and this and
Yeah.
like the children playing just the utopia that they were trying to illustrate for us, me, the audience member, to and I understand the point of it. I understand why you have to have it there. It's just when I see it just being laid out that forcefully, I guess it bugs. It bugs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm like,
Yeah.
ornery old man over here. So, I'm gonna pick some nits. But yeah, overall, Marvel continues to deliver really, really good blockbuster product, which
I think I think honestly, maybe the biggest detractor for me, I don't know if this is a reveal, is, Martin Freeman, his boss? Is
oh,
she
I see,
is
there's
that a reveal?
such
Is she in the
overload.
trail?
At first, my first reaction, we can talk about it for those who have seen it, they know what we're talking about. But when I first saw her out in the field, I'm like, "Oh, is this some kind of parody? Like, what's happening? Did I just it felt like SNL, for because her character was just so over the top, and I didn't recognize her as an actor. And then I realized who she was, and I'm like, "Wait, was she in the last one though?" Because I have such overload with
She
Marvel.
wasn't she is
Wasn't
in something else. I don't know, my
they must
roommates
be
are
setting
both
her up for
still
something.
locked into Marvel, so she has been in something else and played the same character. I don't remember if this was one of the TV shows or if this was, one of the movies. I'm guessing it was in one of the TV shows, but she plays the same character, and they kinda weren't really sure of her shtick either. She was, I think, the weakest part of the movie for me because I didn't really
They didn't have her fleshed out. Yeah,
and she could have been funnier too. Why cast her if she's not gonna be it
it
just
was
seemed like
kinda like
odd casting to me. It
I
seemed like stunt casting.
I feel like they're setting her up for something more. If I'm wrong, then you're absolutely right. If I'm right, then
I
hopefully there's more
hope.
to come. Yeah.
I hope so. Because as is, I didn't really get the need for her to be in it as she was. Because if you're gonna cast that person, make her funnier.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. There wasn't a whole lot of yucks in this movie. I got some like basic questions too, like the big guy who was in the last one, the mountaintop guy, right?
Yeah.
They got the
He's just
wood.
an asshole. I love that
I
guy.
love that dude. Yeah. I mean, part of me, the chauvinistic part of me was like, I wish he was in more of this. I'd like more of him, He was in a lot of
Can
the
you
last
be
one.
Black Panther 3? Can we
But like, why wear oak armor when you have vibranium? I don't quite understand the point of that. Am I missing
I don't
something?
know. It might be one of those things where maybe it's woven in there or
You know that movie?
I
Castaway?
yes.
There's almost as much Black Panther in Castaway as there is in this one. If you're taking like a young kid who like Atticus, he loves the idea of Black Panther. He'd be so fucking pissed if I took him to this. He'd be like, "Where is Black
Where's
Panther?
Black Panther?
Where is Black Panther?" But as a kid who grew up in a kid who grew up in the '80s, like a lot of people love to talk shit about Marvel. I'm one of them. It's annoying, how many theaters they infect. You and I have talked about it. Like, oh, Marvel
Yeah.
movies. Like last night, it was a Monday, and there's no parking in my local theater. Monday night, it's good for theater revenue and whatnot, but it's upsetting and disappointing that the society I live amongst can only get out of bed for a superhero movie. That said, these movies are so much better than the blockbuster drivel that I grew up with. You know what I mean? These movies
Yeah.
are so much better than the '80s blockbusters. Even the Spielberg stuff, some of it. I know that's not sacrilege, but you look back on it, like we've come a long way, and Marvel doesn't have to be making this top quality type movies.